We'll talk about fasting tonight, a text that is relevant for fasting, as you'll see, I hope, by the time we're done. Though the fig tree should not blossom, and there be no fruit on the vines, though the yield of the olive should fail, and the fields produce no food, though the flock should be cut off from the fold, and there be no cattle in the stalls. In other words, every kind of food is taken away. Yet I will exult in the Lord. I will rejoice in the God of my salvation. So the goal of Christian living to me is to become and to help other people become the kind of people who would experience that loss and say that and mean it. No food wherever you turn. It's that desolate. Yet I will exult in the Lord. I will rejoice in the God of my salvation. And there's only one possible way that can happen, and that is if Psalm 63:3 is true for you. The steadfast love of the Lord is better than life. Let's start with a testimony from Carl Lundquist. Carl Lundquist was the president of Bethel College and Seminary until a decade or so ago. He wrote in a letter to some of us called An Evangelical Order of the Burning Heart, "My own serious consideration of fasting, the discipline, as a spiritual discipline, began as a result of a visit to Dr. Jungon Kim in Seoul, Korea. Is it true," I asked him, "that you spent 40 days in fasting prior to the evangelism crusade in 1980? "Yes," he responded, "it's true." Dr. Kim was chairman of the crusade expected to bring 1 million people to Yoido Plaza. But 6 months before the meeting, the police informed him they were revoking the permission for the crusade. Korea at that time was in political turmoil and Seoul was under martial law. The officers decided they would not take the risk of having so many people together in one place. So Dr. Kim and some associates went to a prayer mountain and there spent 40 days before God in prayer and fasting for the crusade. Then they returned and made their way to the police station. "Oh," said the officer when he saw Dr. Kim, "we have changed our mind and you can have your meeting." As I went back to the hotel, I reflected that I had never fasted like that. Perhaps I had never desired a work of God with the same intensity. His body is marked by many 40-day fasts during his long spiritual leadership of God's work in Asia. Also, however, I haven't seen the miracles Dr. Kim has. And then Dr. Lundquist said that in the latter years of his own ministry, he found a modified fast very helpful. He described it like this: "Instead of taking an hour for lunch, I used the time to go to a prayer room, usually the flame room in the nearby Bethel Theological Seminary. There I spend my lunch break in fellowship with God and in prayer, and I have learned a very personal dimension to what Jesus declared, 'I have meat to eat ye know not of.'" Now, let's look at a couple of foundational texts for this remarkable thing that some know better than others. Some of you in this room have never fasted a day in your life, and others have fasted many times. And so we're all over the map. Don't feel threatened by this. If you're 50 or 60 or 70 and have never fasted, it's not too late to learn a discipline which I think Jesus taught to be fairly normal. Let's see if that's true. Matthew 6:16-18, Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, "Whenever you fast," now I quote this one first because right after this section in Dr. Lundquist's letter, he said that the text that arrested him and drew him into this discipline was this: whenever, not if. Not if, but when. Whenever you fast, do not put on a gloomy face as the hypocrites do, for they neglect their appearance so that they will be noticed by men when they are fasting. Truly I say to you, they have their reward in full. But you, when, not if, but when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, so that your fasting will not be noticed by men, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. So I'm going to come back to this text later, but here the only point I want to see is the foundational point of the when. I do think this text suggests very strongly that in Jesus' mind, fasting was going to be a normal part of his disciples' life, and it probably should be. I think there's an even more foundational text right here in Matthew 9:14 to 17. It goes like this. Then the disciples of John came to him. This is John the Baptist. The disciples of John the Baptist came to him saying, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?" And Jesus said to them, "Can the wedding guests mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them?" Let's pause here. God portrayed himself often in the Old Testament as the husband or bridegroom of his people Israel. And so there is a very weighty claim being made here by Jesus about his own identity in relation to his disciples. He's the Messiah, but he's more than a son of David. He is the husband of the people of God, which in the Old Testament was God, and that's not anything more than what Jesus is claiming here, I believe. As long as the bridegroom is present with them, the days will come when the bridegroom is taken away. So he's with them now, he's going to be taken away from them, and then they will fast. Not might, but will. So when the Son of Man, the bridegroom, Jesus, the Son of God, is here, it's too good to fast. When he's gone, my disciples are going to fast. Now, here's a break, only not much of a break, and a little parable about an unshrunk piece of cloth and some new wine. Now, what's the relationship? Why does he follow this word on fasting with this word on the cloth and the wine? No one, notice there's no link here. These have to do with each other. Fasting has to do with what's coming. No one puts a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, for the patch tears away from the garment, and a worse tear is made. Neither is new wine put into old wineskins. If it is, the wineskins burst, and the wine is spilled, and the skins are destroyed. But new wine is put into fresh wineskins, and so both are preserved. Now here's the question. What's the old garment that should not have a new patch put on it? And what's the old wineskins that can't hold the new wine? Well, the new wine is Jesus and his message of the arrival of the kingdom and all the glorious work that he's going to do. And the old wineskin is fasting.